Why take FPL advice from one expert when you can take advice from 100 of them? Welcome to FPL Mate, my name is Dan, and today our experts are making a lot of transfer moves with hits flying everywhere. So we've got some great data today, captains and chips in use as well. Let's get started. So a massive shout out to all of the experts who volunteered their data this game week, and they are on green arrows this week. The expert average rank seems to be going up and up, which we will be having a look at later. If you, of course, do want to join the expert community, join the league, join the Discord server, then do send me a DM. I am looking for those of you with a high rank history. I'm sure there's a lot of decent FPL managers out there who would love to contribute more to this series. But thanks to those who did this week. Let's see what they're up to. So let's have a look at an overview here. And like I said, there are a lot of transfers being made this week. And those making no transfers are the minority. Only 11% of our experts are choosing not to make transfers this week. So I would say that this is definitely a week to make at least one transfer. 27% of our experts are making one transfer, but really we see the big numbers making more than that. 27% making two transfers this week, some of which are taking hits, and 3 or more transfers, 21%. That is enormous. In fact, we do have 5 of our experts making 4 transfers this week, which is quite crazy. So don't be afraid to take a hit for the right reasons, and we are going to see what kind of players are worth taking a hit for in today's video. Make those transfers. It's that kind of week, and if you do have a wild card still in hand, well, you'll be in good company, as 13% of our experts are making, using their wild card this week, which is the highest we've seen since, when was it? Gameweek 6, I think, was the other really popular wildcard week. We've got another really popular wildcard week this week. So feel free to hit that button too. I'll be showing you my wildcard team in tomorrow's video. We've got to have a look at these global top picks to see what the overall FPL player base are doing and whether this aligns with our experts. And given that we have so much expert data this week, every time we see a no on this page, that is a big sign that that is a player to avoid. So let's go from the top here. Salah, Fernandez, and Isaac are very popular in the overall player base, but our experts do like these players as well. The order is not the same, but there is still a lot of interest in these players. Going down the list, João Pedro and Palmer also being heavily transferred in by our experts. And by the way, on Palmer, he has been spotted in training this week, so no concerns about injury there, which is very, very positive news. Now, for these players that seem to be popular in the overall player base, but our experts just are not interested in these players at all. And when you consider how many transfers are being made, this is significant. So, Wissa, no interest really in him, despite his popularity in the overall player base. I think some people recognizing that Brentford's fixtures do get worse in a couple of weeks' time. And also, well, we do have the looming Igor Thiago, who may be taking the central striker position, pushing Wissa out to the left wing. Could definitely see that happening very soon. Cunha is also in here. No transfers in for him. He is, in fairness, owned by a lot of our experts already, but no one who doesn't own Cunha is going for him this week, which is kind of interesting. I think actually he has 1 transfer in among experts and 1 transfer out among experts. So if you don't have Cunha already, this is probably not the week to buy him. Away against Fulham, it's not a great fixture. And speaking of Fulham, no interest in Smith Rowe this week at all. Yeah, no one's going for him. He's not even particularly popular among our experts anyway. No transfers in for Van Dijk. And or maybe there's 1, but no significant interest, no trends here. Mazraoui, no interest in him either. So, particularly these defenders that seem to be popular, yes, the overall player base likes Van Dijk, likes Mazraoui, but we've actually got some, I hope, better suggestions for defenders for you to bring in this week, particularly if you do own one particular defender who may be injured for this game week and you're looking to sell. So that particular defender is joint top of this list. Trent Alexander-Arnold is seeing 22 transfers out among our experts, which is a significant decrease in his ownership among experts. In fact, half of all Trent owners in the experts data set are selling Trent this week. So it's not like you absolutely have to sell him, but it might be a very good idea, particularly if you can use that money for good other use, or you don't have any defenders on your bench that you are happy to play instead of Trent this week, as he is likely to be out against Southampton. It's not looking too good for him. But the other big transfer out is, of course, Erling Haaland. More and more people selling this guy to free up some money for some other big moves that we will be talking about today. So there are very specific scenarios, I suppose, in which you would sell Haaland. We will cover that when we get to the suggested transfers section of this video. But I don't think Haaland is a must sell. Most Haaland owners will be keeping him among our experts, but those in a specific situation will be selling him. And if you're in that specific situation, then maybe you want to sell him as well. But we will get there. Of course, we spoke about Trent, but Brennan Johnson is in here as well. 21 transfers out for him. So again, very significant out of our sample size of 75 transfer making experts. And Solanke is on here as well. Are you seeing a trend here, guys? It seems to be a lot of Man City and Spurs players being sold as their fixtures, well, Spurs' fixtures getting worse. Man City in bad form. They don't have particularly good fixtures either. These could be the players to sell, because after that, we've got Lewis, Foden, Solanke here as well, as we mentioned. A lot of City, a lot of Spurs players. These are the kind of guys you might want to be selling here. Pedro Porro is on this list. Interestingly, Brian Mbeumo has 5 transfers out as well. Didn't necessarily expect to see him on this list, but most of our experts do still own Mbeumo. Remember, guys, if you've been following this series, you'll know that Mbeumo is like the ultimate expert template player at the moment, the most owned player. But will that be changing ahead of Game Week 12? Hint, yes, it will. We've got 2 players who are going to be more popular among experts than Mbeumo in the ownership, total ownership. A couple of Everton players at the bottom of this list as well. The last remaining Calvert-Lewin owners are looking to move him on, and McNeil is being sold by 4 managers as well. But really, if you've got Haaland, Trent, Brennan Johnson, Solanke, Lewis, Foden, Pedro Porro, these are the big players that you want to be removing ahead of Game Week 12. And by the way, guys, if you are enjoying this video, make sure you do drop a like. Hopefully it's being a really useful and helpful series for you, and I really do appreciate all of the support on these videos. These videos do take a while to make, gathering all the data and inputting it and making it presentable for you guys, and hopefully you can subscribe as well to support the show. Let's move on to some transfers in. Well, I don't know if I saw this one coming a couple of weeks ago, but certainly it makes a lot of sense where we sit right now. Alexander Isak, #1 transfer in among experts for Game Week 12. 23 transfers in for him. He was super differential among our experts last game week. Not too many own him. I think it's around 4% among the experts that we have surveyed, and now we're going to see a huge increase there. So if you're looking for a new forward, Isak is your guy. Penalty taker, in good form. Newcastle in general in good form, and it looks like he has shaken off that toe issue that he had plaguing him at the beginning of the season. Isak is back, and a lot of our experts are recognizing that fact. Salah has been a painful player to not own, so those experts who don't have Salah in their team are now choosing to bring him into their team. His overall ownership among the experts is now really high, to the point where we could even say that Salah is becoming almost essential to have in your FPL team. But we'll cover that on the next slide. João Pedro here, 21 transfers in for the cheap Brighton forward. Penalty taker, talisman, looking like he's going to be playing most games for Brighton, and manager Hertzler has really praised him. So I think João Pedro at 5.4 million, absolute steal, and no surprise, he is so popular. So if you're looking for just one new striker for your team, Isak, João Pedro, probably going to be one of these guys, but some of our experts opting to bring in both. Seriously, these are the forwards you want to go for, and I think it's going to depend on what your budget constraints are. If you can afford an Isak, he's your guy. If you're looking for someone a little cheaper, maybe João Pedro can fill that gap. If you don't have Cole Palmer yet, 14 of our experts are bringing him in this week ahead of a really good fixture run for him. We know what Palmer can do in some of these easier fixtures. Lewis Hall is the most popular defender to bring in this week. 4.4 million, nice and cheap, little bit of creative threat threats on the left-hand side for Newcastle with him bombing forward. And a pretty decent fixture against West Ham next for Newcastle as well. Newcastle in general do have some really nice fixtures, so I think Hull makes a really solid rotation defender to bring into your FPL team. Bruno Fernandes, he is back. 7 transfers in for him. New popularity with a new manager. So we're going to see a few people bringing him in. Couple of transfers in for Saka as well. 7 in for him. And after that, few other defenders you might want to consider. Konate of Liverpool, Gabriel of Arsenal, and Colwill of Chelsea. 3 centre-backs from some of the bigger teams in the Premier League, and I think each of them are reasonably good value for money. Given the clean sheets, given the fixtures, they could work out really quite well. So definitely these are the kind of defenders you want to be looking at. So we've got all of this information. Where does that leave us with the expert template? Well, before we go through the expert template right now, let me just say that the average Game Week 11 score for our experts was 62.1 points. Did you beat that? Did you get higher or lower than the expert average in Game Week 11? Let me know in the comments. And of course, let me know if you are higher than the average rank of the experts as well. Are you beating the experts? But I have to say, I'm not. This is a really strong rank. They seem to be going up and up every week on average. I've put the mean rank here, and that is 574k. Really nice, really getting into those nicer areas. I expect this to continue to improve over the coming game weeks. And the median rank, which kind of takes out the outliers, because we have got a couple of outliers. Few of our managers still outside the top 1 million, and we actually do have one manager, I think is ranked 400th in the world among our experts. So these are real outliers, but I think the medium rank with 366k gives you maybe a better idea of where our experts are sitting on average. But whichever average you prefer to look at, those are the 2 that I've got for you today. All in all, the experts are doing well. They really are, and that's going to go up and up and up. Green arrows every week. Very, very impressed. Well done, experts. You guys are smashing it. That's why you're the experts. But of course, going through some of these template players in goal, no real change here. Fabianski and Raya still the template goalkeepers for us. Small increases for Aït-Nouri and Gabriel among our experts here. And we've got a few players dropping down. Lewis and Alexander-Arnold, real drop-offs for their ownership. Like I said, around half of Trent owners are selling him this week. He's gone from 46% owned down to 24% owned. So that is quite significant, but doesn't make him a must sell. Kind of a 50-50 decision. It's going to depend on your situation. Now, previously, Mbeumo was the highest owned player among our experts, but with a 5% drop, he is now down to 89% ownership. Palmer is increased and overtaken Mbeumo. He's now up to 90% ownership. No change for Rodgers, but Salah, another player, all the way up to 90% here. So really crazy improvements for Salah. And like I say, Palmer and Salah, these are the, I guess, essential players at this point. When we've got 90% of our experts owning these players, that is usually a sign that they're players you have to have in your FPL team. For Johnson, he's got a significant drop-off, down 21%. More than half of Johnson owners are selling him. He's down to 19% now. Haaland, big decrease here. For the first time this season, Haaland is owned by less than half of our experts. He's going to be down to approximately 42% ownership among our experts. Quite crazy. No change on Cunha, as we mentioned, but 60% is still fairly significant. He was the big hype transfer over the last 2 game weeks, so no surprise to see him pretty highly owned. And a big drop-off for Solanke as well, down 18% to 24% approximately, of course. So, we know the transfers, we know the template. Now we've got to suggest some transfers based on this information. So let's cover those combo transfers first of all, because I think what we've learned really is Salah and Palmer are the essential players to own. And I think if you do have Haaland in your team, this is kind of how you're going to get a Salah and a Palmer. Most likely, you're going to have to sell these players in order to get the other big players, right? Haaland is expensive. It's difficult to have them all. So if you don't have Salah or Palmer, what I would suggest based on the information we've gathered is to sell Haaland and a A midfielder that you don't like Brennan Johnson is a good example of that. McNeil is maybe another example of that. A midfielder that you just don't want in your team at all at the moment. So maybe Rodgers or Semenyo or Mbeumo wouldn't necessarily fit into that category. But what we've seen consistently among our experts is those who are selling Haaland are doing so for a purpose. It's not like they're just selling Haaland to bring in Isak or João Pedro. They're doing it to free up the budget to immediately buy another big midfielder, Salah or Palmer. So if you are missing Salah or Palmer, those are the reasons to sell Haaland. Just dropping him down to an Isak or a João Pedro and not reinvesting the money you've saved, that is not worth it. But I think these kind of moves are worth a hit. A lot of our experts are taking a hit in order to get a Salah or a Palmer into their team. If you haven't got these players already, just do it. Get it over and done with. You'll be glad you did. Of course, there are other ways of getting a Salah or a Palmer into your team. If you do have Trent Alexander-Arnold in your team, for example, maybe a downgrade from him down to a Hall, and then upgrading a Foden to a Salah, or a Mbeumo to a Salah potentially, or Palmer, if you've already got Salah. These kind of moves could work pretty well. Of course, the other option, if you're downgrading Trent, you could maybe even upgrade one of your forwards to Isak as well. So there are various combo transfers available to us this week that I think all work pretty well. But there are some individual transfers as well if you're just looking to make one transfer this week. So here are some suggestions for those direct transfers. Trent, Porro, if you've got these kind of players, moving them straight to a Konate could be pretty sensible. Gabriel, of course, another fairly, well, slightly more expensive defender you could consider if you don't have any Arsenal coverage in your team so far. Lewis, if you're looking for a new cheap defender here, well, Lewis out for Lewis Hall. So, yeah, confusing one. Rico Lewis for Lewis Hall. There you go. Nice and easy transfer for you. If you've still got Foden in your team, moving him to a Bruno Fernandes or a Saka should be fairly doable for you, even with not much money in the bank. And of course, if you do have Solanke and you can afford to make a direct upgrade to Isak, just do it. Really easy transfer, really straightforward transfer for you. Pull that trigger. It's time to go. But with all that said, we still need to have a look at some captains for this game week. So no triple captains being used by our experts this week. However, we do see a very strong trend on Salah this week. Yes, we've seen Salah being more and more popular as a captain each week, and Haaland's numbers dropping each week. But we are getting to a point where Salah is much preferred to Haaland as a captain. So Salah against Southampton, 78% of our experts will be opting for that captain decision. Haaland against Spurs. Now, given that Spurs could be missing some centre-backs, I actually don't think Haaland captain against Spurs is a bad idea at all. 18% of experts agree with that one. So if you don't have Salah, but maybe you have Palmer and you don't want to captain Palmer, maybe you could go for Haaland against Spurs. I don't think there's too much issue there. Palmer is, of course, an option. Leicester away, 3% of our experts going for that particular captain move, and just one person going for Isak at home against West Ham. That is the Monday fixture, so a couple of days extra rest for the Newcastle boys to try and get a result against West Ham United. So those are the kind of captains we are looking at this week. I don't know if you've got any other suggestions for captains for me. If you have, let me know down in the comments. I think it's probably pretty straightforward between these four at the moment. I don't think I'll personally be looking outside of these four guys, but Salah is your number one captain. If you have him, captain him. If you don't, Haaland, Palmer, maybe some options for you. Not a significant enough trend on Isak to really justify that captain choice there. But hopefully that is a fairly straightforward decision for most of you guys, particularly if you are bringing in Salah this week, be it through transfers, hits, or maybe even the wild card button. But that's going to be it for today. If you enjoyed this one, drop a like. Do subscribe if you're new around here. Appreciate you guys watching. Check out another video if you would like to. Buy, Sell, Keep, Avoid came out yesterday, and I'll be doing my wild card team tomorrow. Can't wait to share that with you guys, and I'll see you later, mates. Bye-bye.